Dominus vobiscum. Lectio Sancti Evangelii secundum Lucam. Someone in the crowd said to Jesus, "Teacher, tell my brother to give me my share of our inheritance." He replied, "Friend, who has set me up as your judge or arbiter?" Then he said to the crowd, "Avoid greed in all its forms. A man may be wealthy, but his possessions do not guarantee him life." He told them a parable in these words. There was a rich man who had a good harvest. "What shall I do?" he asked himself. "I have no place to store my harvest." "I know," he said. "I will pull down my grain bins and build larger ones. All my grain and my goods will go there. Then I will say to myself, 'You have blessings in reserve for years to come. Relax, eat heartily, drink well, enjoy yourselves.' But God said to him, 'You fool, this very night your life shall be required of you. To whom will all this piled up wealth of yours go?' That is the way it works with a man who grows rich for himself instead of growing rich in the sight of God." Verbum Domini. Let us all be seated. Today is the 18th Sunday in Ordinary Time. Your Reverence Bishop Florentino Sinense, Bishop Emeritus of Tarlac, brothers and sisters. The Gospel for today has nothing to do with inheritance. It talks about a very serious spiritual vice or defect called covetousness. The last statement of the Gospel for today tells us, "This is the wise man. He is the man who grows rich in the sight of God rather than rich for himself in the things of the world." If you will notice, the Gospel always presents to us two examples. One, an example of a bad man who is going to hell, and the other is the example of a good man destined to have everlasting life. And we are supposed to avoid imitating the bad man, and we must imitate the good man. And so Christ describes to us the good man today. He has the virtue of liberality. This is the man who grows rich in the sight of God rather than grows rich for himself. And we have the example of a bad man guilty of a vice opposite liberality called covetousness. The virtue of liberality is when God trains us to give all our excess, not the things that we need, but to give our excess to those who are in need. That is liberality. However, covetousness is defined as the love of money. In liberality, St. Thomas of Aquinas tells us we develop the wisdom on how to use our worldly things like money wisely, while in covetousness, it is keeping all our excess for ourselves. Covetousness is defined as the love for money. As we saw, there is nothing wrong with money if it is used wisely. But as the gospel for today shows us, we have brothers who are now fighting over their inheritance. Now, St. Thomas reminds us that brothers are supposed to have natural affection towards one another. Natural, but affection. Parents and children have natural affection towards one another. And so when they quarrel over money, that's a bad sign. That means there is covetousness among the members of the family. Covetousness is defined as an incurable vice because nobody wants to cure themselves when they love money. What is the sign that you love money and therefore you have the source of all evil? When you think more of money than the salvation of your souls. When you spend more time trying to manage your money rather than learning how to save your souls. That means you love money. And it is even worse than drug addiction because it is an incurable vice. And so St. Thomas of Aquinas reminds us that when you love money, you put up your soul for sale to the devil, and the devil will surely buy your soul. It was the defect of Judas. Because Judas loved money, the devil entered into him and he sold Christ. We live in a world that is hungering for happiness. And happiness is to know God, love God, and love your neighbor. But there is something in the world that imitates happiness, and that is money. Because with money you can buy most of the thing that you want. And so you begin to have a feeling that you are happy when you can get and buy most of the things that you have. And that is precisely the reason why this vice, which is very serious, for it is described as a spiritual vice, Unlike gluttony, which is only a physical vice, covetousness is a spiritual vice. People will give up heaven in order to have money. It is so serious that we must make sure we do not have that in our souls. And so the gospel for today warns us in the story of a brother who went to Christ and asked him, Lord, help me get my share of my inheritance. Look at what is wrong with this brother. He was face to face with Christ who could save his soul. And what does he ask? A share of his money. That is the sign of a person without faith. And because he has no faith, there is no possibility for him to go to heaven. And so, as the first reading tells us, okay, think about money, manage your money, because it can be used to save your soul by developing the virtue of liberality. But don't think of it too much. Because if you think too much, you are a lover of money. And Christ says the love of money is the root of all evil. Because Judas loved money, he sold his own God. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.